We're on. Hey, there we go. That was actually perfect timing.
Yours is so delayed. If one of us is delayed because it looked way up on my end.
Well, I guess when we upload, we'll actually find out. But welcome back once again, everybody. Tonight, today, I guess really tonight because we're actually recording this on Monday night. While the NFL is currently playing, Ravens and Raiders are currently playing. Now, if you guys don't know, we still have two divisions left to do for the offseason. And since we never actually got around to them, I figured while me and Serpensky are still waiting for Sam to get back so that we can do our NCAA football picks for week 3, which stay tuned for that. That'll be coming out soon as well. I figured me and Sam would go over the offseason for the NFC AFC West since me and Sam actually never did it. So, well, let's do it now, and so we have all of them done. So, we start with the Denver Broncos. Now, this offseason, they got themselves, obviously, Teddy Bridgewater in a trade with the Panthers. Panthers got a 6th-round pick in return. But Broncos had just no quarterbacks. I mean, I am not a big fan of, what's his face, Drew Lock. I'm not a Drew Lock guy. I'm really not. So I think getting Teddy Bridgewater was a dramatic improvement for Denver. Mike Boone's a decent running back. Other than that, looks like a couple more backups. Ronald Darby is a really good corner. Like that signing a lot. Shelby Harris, really good defensive tackle. Kyle Fuller, nice corner. Kareem Jackson can play. Justin Simmons, obviously very good safety for the Broncos. Other than that, not really a whole lot else to mention in free agency. You go to their draft class. Patrick Surtain, obviously their number one or their 1st-round pick at number 9 overall. Surtain, very good corner out of Alabama. Love that pick for Denver. Would have liked them to draft a quarterback, but they didn't. They went with Surtain. But still a nice move. Javonte Williams, running back from Notre Dame, was their 2nd-round pick, which was a confusing move to me because you look at the Denver running back situation already. Now, they didn't end up re-signing Philip Lindsay. He went to Houston, where they have like 4 or 5 running backs that all could play. I don't know what Houston was doing with that, but Javonte Williams, this to me is confusing how in the world he's going to fit into the Bronco offense that already has Melvin Gordon in that offense at running back. So what was the whole point in spending a 2nd-round pick when you already had a running back that was good enough to make plays? I mean, if you wanted 2 guys, I get that, but it's like you already had somebody. You had much bigger needs than a 2nd running back. So why?
They're traumatized. They're traumatized from last year, where literally every single one of their quarterbacks was dead.
Yeah.
Didn't they use like a wide receiver?
Yeah, they were. Yeah, they did. They had to use a wide receiver because of COVID.
They're like, yeah, we ain't dealing with this again.
Yeah. Their 3rd-round pick was Quinn Meinerz. I can't remember how you pronounce his last name, but guard Wisconsin Whitewater. He's got some talent. I'm curious how he'll turn out. Baron Browning, linebacker at Ohio State, is pretty good. The rest of these picks, Seth Williams, I really do like. 6th-round pick out of Auburn, really good wide receiver. He's pretty buried on the depth chart, though. Other than that, I don't really see much for Denver that really just stands out. But Patrick Surtain's really good. Williams is really good, but I don't get his fit. Denver should mean they obviously won week 1. They beat the Giants. The Giants' offense still sucks. I figured it'd be better, but apparently not. I figured that I think the Broncos will be a better team this year. They're a borderline playoff team, in my opinion. What do you think?
I mean, I would have been more down on them if we hadn't started the season already, but the win in New York, a pretty big one at that. Teddy Bridgewater looked good. As long as Teddy Bridgewater can stay pretty decent and just not stink, this is probably a borderline playoff team, if not a postseason playoff team. But the AFC is also really, really good, and they also have the Chiefs in their division. They played them twice, which will not be too easy to use. So I think this is a borderline playoff team.
Yeah, and now we move on to the next team, which, conveniently enough, the Kansas City Chiefs. So the Chiefs obviously have a loaded roster as they, on offense, they actually did sign Jerick McKinnon at running back. There's some depth behind Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Demarcus Robinson re-signed with the team. Don't know who Blake Bell is, but who cares? Cool, they signed a guy. Moving on. Orlando Brown, they got in a trade with the Baltimore Ravens. This was a big offseason trade. You can see basically the entire thing here is loaded with a bunch of offensive linemen, which is the only weakness that I see for the Kansas City Chiefs. They have their defense is slightly suspect, but their offensive line got throttled by the Tampa Bay Bucks in the Super Bowl, and it was plainly evident to everyone across the country that their offensive line was not very good, and the Chiefs immediately noticed it and boom, went to fix it. And they traded for Orlando Brown from the Baltimore Ravens. They brought Kyle Long out of retirement. They got Mike Remmers. They got Joe Thunley. They got a center. So they signed anyone that they could to the offensive line just to readjust everything and get some protection for the guy that they're paying $500 million to play as their quarterback. And in that case, that's actually his contract. He's getting paid $500 million to be the Chiefs' quarterback right now.
That's not to say for 10 years?
Yeah, 10 years, $500 million.
I mean, I just don't see many issues or any worries in the land of the Chiefs, in the land of the back-to-back Super Bowl appearances, the back-to-back AFC champions. I mean, they've been one of the most dominant forces in football. They didn't really need to add much. Obviously, the Orlando Brown trade was huge, but they didn't really need to do much, and they didn't really do much because they're back-to-back AFC champions. What else do you want them to do?
I mean,
if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, exactly. And they actually did sign Taco Charlton. Us Wolverine fans know exactly who that is.
I remember. Oh gosh, I think it was when we lost to Iowa in 2016, and I kept sitting there because Taco made like a huge interception or something. And I'm like, if we somehow pull this win out, I am driving to some taco place, and we are getting like 50 tacos. I do not get.
Just go to Taco Bell.
We would go on to Taco Bell. I don't want to be on the toilet at 2 a.m. Obviously, we didn't win that game, but I love Taco. I mean, that wasn't the hardest one. I mean, that was a hard loss, but JT was short. Okay, moving on.
Yeah, we could go all day on that, so let's not go there. But we got Alex Okafor, Jaron Reed. Other than that, Mike Hughes actually made a big play for the Chiefs in their win against the Browns, which looked really good. Browns look like a really good team, so I would watch out for the Browns this year. As for their draft class, I honestly have no idea what their draft class was. Oh, here it is. They didn't have a whole lot of draft picks. They got Nick Bolton, a linebacker from Missouri, who's a decent player. Creed Humphrey, a center from Oklahoma, not too bad. Their draft class, nothing special. I wouldn't say it's bad either. It's just a draft class. I mean, they're the Super Bowl runner-ups, not exactly going to have an overloaded draft class anyway. So, Chiefs overall, probably going to win the AFC again. And now we go to the Las Vegas Raiders, who are currently playing right now. A curious move.
Wide open. I think it was Walker just dropped the pass. It was wide open in his hand. It was a while back. He literally was just caught it, and then he just dropped it. So that's the Raiders for you.
Yeah, Raiders obviously have this every single year. Everyone thinks the Lions are bad at drafting. You would not want to be a Raiders.
It's probably a good thing we don't have Sam on for this one.
Oh, yeah, he would be.
ripping into the Raiders.
Oh, yeah, he would go on probably a 10-minute tirade about how the Raiders can't make draft picks, which, I mean, the Lions can't either, but jeez, the Raiders really struggle with that.
I would be ripping into the Raiders, and he'd just be sitting in the corner just like, yeah.
But for the Las Vegas Raiders, the unique signing they made was Kenyon Drake. Signed Kenyon Drake for 2 years, $11 million, gained him from the Arizona Cardinals. I didn't exactly understand this move because the Raiders already had a great running back in Josh Jacobs. So why sign another great running back to be a backup? I mean, unless you're the Browns, you just happened to give Kareem Hunt another chance. It ended up working out, and you got two really stud running backs. Kenyon Drake is not exactly an all-star running back. Josh Jacobs is. So you're paying $11 million basically to a backup running back, which I don't see the point. But
they got Travis Kelce on this stream. I love this. For those of you who don't know, the Monday Night Football thing's going on right now. They've got the Peyton Eli thing, and they just keep bringing on random guests. So much.
Yeah, they had Chuck. They had Barkley on earlier.
Why?
I don't know. He's a Raiders fan, but I mean, it's cool. Honestly, it's a little weird because I'm used to hearing commentating. It's cool, but it's also weird because I'm trying to watch the game, and the only thing I'm hearing is just like Peyton and Eli sharing random stories on their life, which is awesome. But
honestly, the game is not that good right now, so I'm not complaining.
That's true, but. Raiders got Kenyon Drake. They also signed Theo Riddick, obviously former Lion. He only catches the ball. He doesn't run the ball. He's just a receiver out of the backfield. That's the only thing he is. John Brown. They signed a couple of decent wide receivers. John Brown, Zay Jones, Willie Snead. They need They need wide receivers. And they need all the help they can get at wide receiver. You got a tight end they signed, Sam Young. Richie Incognito is a good lineman. Nick Martin. Denzel Good's pretty good. Unique Ngakoue is a really good defensive end. I liked that signing for the Raiders. Gerald McCoy is a really good defensive tackle. Jonathan Hankins, not a bad player. Quentin Jefferson. I mean, Solomon Thomas is really good. I like Solomon Thomas. Big first-round pick for the San Fran 49ers, one of the guys who got hit by the injury plague last year. That's what I'm calling it now, the injury plague. And it's already plaguing the Niners again. So
the 49ers had an injury plague last year, that's for sure. Like, everybody got hit. I feel like week one is just the injury week, though. You haven't had many padded football practices, so you just that's your most.
Well, like every week for the Niners last year, there was like 5 guys getting hurt. I'm just trying to figure out what. I'm just wondering. Imagine a Niners fan watching that Week 2 game against the New York Jets and seeing both of their bookends, both Solomon Thomas and Nick Bosa, studded defensive ends, tear their ACLs on back-to-back plays on the same drive. Just what are they thinking?
And then you also got. Well, this year the injury plague is hitting the Ravens running back room.
That and Marcus Peters.
That's true. The Ravens in general. But yeah, I mean, as far as the Raiders go, I mean, again, they're the same thing. They're either a borderline playoff team or just under that tier. I don't think they're a solid playoff team, especially. I don't even think they're. I think the Broncos might be better than them. I think it's pretty neck and neck between them two.
Well, the Raiders don't really look that good, to be honest. I'm just going to say the defense is very under average. The offense is solely based on how good Derek Carr plays, which I'm not a Derek Carr fan. He's okay at most. He had a couple good seasons, and other than that, he hasn't been that special. So I am not a believer in the Raiders. I do not think they'll be a good team this year. They haven't looked like it against the Ravens either. Of course, the Ravens haven't looked good either, but they have no running backs, so can you really blame them? But other than that, you got Casey Hayward, KJ Wright, Carl Joseph. So they made an attempt to make themselves better on the defensive front, which is definitely good to see for the Raiders. In their draft class, obviously their first round pick was Alex Leatherwood, which everybody for the Raiders is completely loathes because obviously Leatherwood was not expected to be a first round pick. Well, what the Raiders do, they reach for for another player in the first round. And honestly, I think Leatherwood he's a decent player, but I think 100% he was taken way earlier than he should have been. But I liked their second round pick, which I finally found the Raiders here. And that was Travion Morig, the safety from TCU. He's a good player. He's got some talent. That is a first round talent that the Raiders got in the second round. So that's definitely something to look forward to for the Raiders, and the rest of their draft class is just nothing special. So, I mean, I don't expect anything from the Raiders this year. They'll probably be, like you said, maybe make the playoffs, but most likely they'll be slightly under that playoff tier. And now we have the LA Chargers, who I think are going to be, I think they could make the playoffs. Now, you in the AFC, you have just an absolutely overloaded conference in the AFC. So it's hard for many teams to actually just make the wild card because you got the Baltimore Ravens, who are a really good team. You got the and Stravinsky took off. He's back. But for the Chargers, you have Chargers have a really good team, so I'm thinking the Chargers are going to be really good here. Chase Daniel, backup QB, Jared Cook can play. Other than that, their signings, they don't really have a whole lot of guys that they signed in free agency. A lot of guys at the Chargers were hurt last year. Also, they got a new head coach, so I'm very curious how the new head coach plays out. Really, for the Chargers, I think it's more of just head coaching and being able to just stay healthy because they have a good team. Justin Herbert, really good quarterback, obviously. Chargers in their first game played the Washington football team. They knocked them off 2016. I think the Chargers are good. I am totally sold in on the LA Chargers. They needed offensive linemen. That's exactly what they got in the first round. Rashawn Slater, tackle out of Northwestern, really good lineman. I love Asante Samuel, corner out of Florida State. I absolutely love that pick for the Chargers. Um, Honestly, I just like their team in general, and those two picks are really going to be impact players for the Chargers. And I'm expecting a lot out of LA this year under new head coach Brandon Staley.
Only thing with the Chargers is just nobody shows up to their games because nobody cares about the LA Chargers in LA. But yeah, Justin Herbert should have a good year again, and I think this team will be better than it was last year. But again, in a division where you have the clear cut leader and then three teams that are like right there with each other. Not too much to stand out there.
Yeah, honestly, if I'm the Chargers, I'd move back to San Diego. Honestly, just move back to San Diego. Be yeah, just move back to San Diego. The whole reason they actually I don't know if this is actually true. I forget where I heard this, but I think the whole reason that the Chargers actually left San Diego was because their owner wanted a stadium on the beach. He wanted to build his stadium on the beach, which the city of San Diego told him no. He said okay, and then moved to Los Angeles. Just why? Why cost yourself so much money because the city doesn't want you to build on a beach, which no one's going to let you build on a beach. Come on. That always just made me mad because that's just so stupid.
All right, NFC West.
And yes, we go to the NFC West, and your Arizona Cardinals are up first. So,
really good week one.
Yeah, that was very impressive. Their week one win against the Tennessee Titans, absolutely unbelievable game. I was sold in the Cardinals last year. I thought they'd make the playoffs. They were a game away from making it, just like my Miami Dolphins, who I thought would make it to the playoffs last year. Both teams just a game away. Cardinals are going to be really good this year. I'm just going to be honest. They have a much better defense. Their offense is just as good with more weapons as they signed James Conner. I love that as a running back. Very good running back. Really nice replacement for Kenyon Drake. They also have Chase Edmonds, who they like as well. So those two guys rotating in will be really nice. AJ Green, as old as he is, still can really play when he's healthy, and he showed that in week 1. He can be very good as the number 2 guy next to DeAndre Hopkins, along with Andy Isabella and Christian Kirk, who are both also really good wide receivers. The tight end spot, not the greatest. They have an offense. They got some offensive linemen. They got Rodney Hudson from the Raiders in a trade. Marcus Golden's a really good defensive end. J.J. Watt was a very big signing at defensive end. They got Matt Prater for their kicker, which they need. Cervensky knows they needed a kicker, and they got themselves, I can say as a Lions fan, they got themselves an incredible kicker.
Oh, I'm so glad Matt Prater into us last year. It was terrible. Oh, he cost us something. Oh, okay.
But really, the only concern that I have out of all the players on the Arizona Cardinals really is the secondary, because you no longer have Patrick Peterson, and who you got to really replace him was Malcolm Butler, who Butler's good, but we haven't seen Malcolm Butler be as good as he used to be in a few years. They also got Darqueze Dennard, but honestly, I think the main concern for the Cardinals will be that secondary. But they also, I believe, no, I don't think they drafted a corner. Did they draft a corner? No, they got a linebacker. That's right. The Cardinals, they drafted Zaven Collins, a linebacker out of Tulsa in the first round. Honestly, he's an okay player. I was a little surprised to see him get drafted as high as he did get drafted. So, nice for the Cardinals. I mean, the Cardinals have a really good team. I'm thoroughly excited for the Cardinals this year. There they are. They drafted. That's right. I forgot. They drafted Rondale Moore, wide receiver out of Purdue, in the second round, which I was a little curious by that because they have so many wide receivers, but Rondale Moore turned out to have a really good week in week 1, so always nice to see. But Arizona, gonna be a fantastic team in my opinion.
I'm gonna make another quick note on this Vegas game. Mariota is the Raiders' leading rusher at 1 carry for 31 yards. Marcus Mariota is
that's
their
not good.
leading rusher. What?
Yeah, I don't get that one. But that's a new thing that NFL teams have been doing this year. Actually, is they have been using 2 quarterbacks. I mean, you've seen that with the teams that have rookies in as a QB, but now you see the Raiders doing it as they kind of rotate in Marcus Mariota and Derek Carr, which is very interesting to see.
He hasn't thrown a pass today. He just ran it once, and that was all he did.
Well, you also see that with the Dolphins. They don't really have. They have Jacoby Brissett, who doesn't throw it ever. He just does QB sneaks all the time because he's a massive quarterback, and that's really the only job they have from him. Oh, we got 4th and inches. Hey, Jacoby Brissett, get out there.
And they don't want Tua to run into that middle.
No, and the Colts didn't either. They always had Brissett being the guy to do QB sneaks. He's just the QB sneak master.
All right, who's next on our NFC West trade?
All right, and I mean the Cardinals, honestly though, they have a really, really good team. Next is the LA Rams, who obviously made the big trade for Matt Stafford. If Stafford had gone anywhere else, I would be rooting for him. I hate the Rams. I can't. I cannot stand the LA Rams. If Stafford went anywhere else, I would be rooting for him. I'd be rooting for him to win a Super Bowl. I can't stand the LA Rams. I'll root for him as much as I can, but I hate the LA Rams. I just can't.
Even if he went to the Packers?
Well, he isn't going to go to Green Bay.
Not anywhere. Not anywhere.
He's not going to go to Green Bay. I'm talking about somewhere where it'd be realistic. Like, he's not going to go to Green Bay. They have Aaron Rodgers. Unless they said, hey, let's trade you Aaron Rodgers. We'll give you Matt Stafford. Imagine if that happened.
I don't like the Rams either, but I'm still rooting for Stafford because he deserves to have he deserves some success.
But the Rams, honestly, I hate their offseason. Their offseason was terrible too. Outside of getting Matt Stafford, they signed Deshaun Jackson. They got Leonard Floyd, and that was it. That was their entire offseason. Let's trade for Matt Stafford. We signed Deshaun Jackson. We give Leonard Floyd a big-time deal. And then their draft class was terrible, too. Their first-round pick was a wide receiver, I believe, out of, like, Louisville, who the guy was, like, 5'7" or something like that. The Rams offseason, I think, was so terrible. But they already had a really good team, so they could end up just being good anyway. But their offseason was really, really pathetic. Yeah, their first pick was a second-round pick because they haven't had first-round picks in like 10 years. Their second-round pick was Tutu Atwell, wide receiver out of Louisville. And then there's the rest of this draft class, just a bunch of different names that really don't mean anything. So, honestly, for the Rams, they could go somewhere because they just have a lot of options already, but they really did absolutely nothing to improve their team other than trading for Matt Stafford, keeping Leonard Floyd, and then getting Deshaun Jackson for whatever reason.
I would say, yeah, outside of upgrading their quarterback, they didn't do too much. But I mean, the Rams have always been decent, so they're a playoff. They should be a playoff team still, especially with Stafford at the helm. I mean, they walloped the Bears.
And then also, why did they change their logo? Why did they change it to? It's just what? Why? Why be an off? They basically are an off-brand Chargers. I hate it. It's like, why? You look like the Chargers, but you're not.
I will say I do like colors. I like the uniforms. I like the look of the uniforms. They do look like like an off-brand Chargers. I agree with you. I do like the look of them. I might also just have a bias towards blue and yellow colors being together, but I do like their uniforms. But their actual logo,
I don't know.
I like their colors.
Maybe I just hate the LA Rams too much, but
I think you do.
But next up is the San Fran 49ers, which I'm not a big fan of this team either, but I don't necessarily hate them as much as I do the LA Rams. The Niners, they just every single year, well, last year specifically, they got major league hit by the injury bug that just riddled them all year long. So I don't know what happened there. Obviously, it was not a good situation for San Fran. They got Nate Sudfeld. They signed Wayne Gallman. Obviously, now with Raheem Mostert out, maybe Gallman will end up doing something for him. Mohamed Sanu, Benny Fowler. They got their fullback back for a big-time contract. Their fullback's been around forever. He's one of the best in the league. Trent Williams was the big signing, and Alex Mack. Two really good offensive linemen there. I liked both of those signings for the 49ers. Maurice Hurst is a really good defensive tackle. Obviously, we know that name from the Wolverines. Other than that, Manuel Mosley is really good. He's a decent player. Jason Verrett obviously just tore his ACL. He's out for the year, but he was a good signing. Kawan Williams, decent player. Tony Jefferson, not too bad. So for the Niners, honestly, even if their offseason was average, but who cares about the offseason? 49ers, one goal and one goal alone. Stay healthy. That should be just their only goal for the season, just stay healthy. They haven't even done that yet because they already lost like 3 guys against the Lions. But the Niners, I mean, obviously their draft pick was Justin Fields and or not Trey Lance. I'm sorry, Trey Lance, quarterback at North Dakota State. I don't know why I said Justin Fields. But Trey Lance, their quarterback, in the first round. They also drafted Trey Sermon in round 3, and they got Ambry Thomas out of Michigan, the corner. He's a good player as well. So their draft class is really good. They have a nice their offseason wasn't too bad. So Niners have a good team. If they stay healthy, they will be a Super Bowl team. If they don't stay healthy, they might not make the playoffs like they did last year. But their season is going to be fully dependent on how much they stay healthy. And that has already been a problem for them this year. But if the majority of their team can stay healthy, this team is a Super Bowl team.
It's the same thing they were a couple of years back when they, obviously made the Super Bowl. It's a really good team. It's just they have to, like you said, they have to stay healthy. I think Garoppolo's always been a decent, good enough quarterback, which now Patriots fans are probably even more. They could have had starting after Tom Brady left, but Tom Brady didn't want him there. But now we have Mac Jones, who
Mac Jones
honestly,
is good.
I don't know how good Mac Jones is, just because last year I feel like as good of a year as Mac Jones had with Alabama, I feel like it's the same thing that's going on with C.J. Stroud. He could just dump it like C.J. Stroud right now could just dump it off to Chris Olave on a crossing route. He could run 50 yards for a touchdown. Mac Jones doesn't even have to do anything, or Stroud doesn't have to do anything. I feel like it was the same thing last year with him with Najee Harris and all them. So I don't know, but. Yeah, I think this 49ers team should be pretty good. Again, I feel like this NFC West team, or this NFC West, is probably the best division in football.
Yeah, all the NFC.
I think it is the best division in football.
Yeah, the entire NFC West actually won in week 1. All the teams, and 3 of them were playing in the Eastern time zone. That being the Cardinals, the Niners, and the team we're about to talk about, my own Seahawks. And honestly, I don't know about Seattle. I don't know. They did beat the Colts, which was nice to see, but I don't know about Seattle this year. They got Chris Carson back. Geno Smith is a backup. Gerald Everett's a really good tight end. Yeah, they needed offensive line, and they slightly did address that. They got Gabe Jackson. They re-signed Ethan. They re-signed the guard Ethan Pacic. I think that's how you say it. I can't remember, but he's a decent guard. Gabe Jackson can play. Carlos Dunlap, really good, obviously, defensive end. Got him in the trade last year with the Bengals. Benson Maiwa, decent player. Alden Smith is gone, I believe, now. That's old. That's an old signing. I believe we released him after more off-field problems, but I wouldn't have minded that signing. Kerry Hyder can really play, obviously, from the Lions. You think he was with the 49ers last year. He took over after multiple injuries for them. Robert Ninkovich, I forget how you pronounce his last name, but he's a decent player. Al Woods can play. Honestly, their free agency wasn't that bad. And then there's their their draft class, which when I find it, I believe it's number 12 on here. It has a total of 3 players. Yeah, that's right. Their draft class was 3 players. Dwayne Eskridge from a wide receiver from Western Michigan, Trey Brown, corner from Oklahoma, and Stone Forsythe, a tackle from Florida. That was it. they traded the rest of their draft picks away. So I hope those three work for you guys, Seattle, because none of that really addressed anything you needed. but
They're still in wait now mode.
But yeah, Seattle, honestly, their entire season just really depends on how well Russell Wilson does. He carries this team every single year. It doesn't really matter what the rest of the team looks like. The whole season depends on how good Russell Wilson is, and if he keeps playing like the MVP he has been multiple years, Seattle will be another playoff team and probably lose in the divisional round to somebody, since that's what we do every year. But Seattle, they need to get something on the defensive end of football. They just slowly every single year they keep losing more and more and more. And they need to do something to try and get more than what they're actually losing. And I have not seen that yet.
Mm-hmm. They're just going to be another safety uniform. I don't think they're Super Bowl contenders unless they just really, really turn something around and just find some magic formula. I don't think they're Super Bowl contenders, but they'll probably be a playoff team because they're the Seahawks.
I mean, they have obviously the offense to win a Super Bowl, but other than that, they don't really have much else. But Seattle, they should have another great year, and that is it. So we are done with the off seasons for the NFL. Next episode for us will be the week 3 picks for NCAA football. And that'll be it for me and Serbenski. Until next time, adios, everyone.